In chapter 10, Much Afraid and her companions are well on the way of climbing up the side of the mountain. And it tells us that Much Afraid is so thankful to be tied to sorrow and suffering, as it made her feel more secure. And she was so glad to find that none of it felt too hard for her to do on the climb. And Much Afraid was also very thankful for the cordial of spirit of grace and comfort that the Great Shepherd gave her to take with her. At one point, when they were climbing, Much Afraid was waiting in a crevice while Sorrow and Suffering figured out the best way to keep going. And as she looked down, she saw all of her enemies standing at the bottom, looking up. But they were too far away to reach her, so she didn't have to worry about them. They continued climbing, and at what point they came to a narrow bridge which led them across to a little place prepared for them to stay for the night. In the morning, Much Afraid found a little red flower growing in the cave that they were sleeping in, and after asking its name, learned that it was called Bearing the Cost. And Much Afraid realized right away that this was the next letter in the alphabet of love that the shepherd instructed her to begin practicing as soon as she learned it. A rock fell from beside the flower, and Much Afraid added that rock to her bag and the other memorial stones. Then Much Afraid and her companions continued their climb up the mountainside. At one point, Much Afraid tripped and cut her knees badly. Although Sorrow and Suffering were able to keep her from falling, she was very shaken up by almost falling off the side of the mountain. Much Afraid was stuck in a panic mode, and so much so that she couldn't give herself the cordial of the spirit of grace and comfort. So Sorrow took the cordial and dropped a few drops of it into Much Afraid's mouth. After this, Much Afraid was able to continue the climb, even though she was moving very slowly. Moving slowly posed a problem, though, because they needed to make it to the top before nightfall. Suffering asked Much Afraid what she was doing this morning, and she left the cave. And Much Afraid told Suffering about the Bearing the Cost flower that she found. Talking about the Bearing the Cost flower gave Much Afraid the idea to pour some of the cordial onto the cuts on her knees. This helped her knees to stop bleeding and helped her to move much faster. They were able to reach the top of the ascent by afternoon and sat down. And just as they sat down, they heard a voice singing and saw the shepherd walking towards them. The first lesson I took from chapter 10 is that the trials that we try to avoid are often the best protection for us spiritually. We see this in chapter 10 when Much Afraid she's on the climb and she looks down and notices that her enemies are far below, and they weren't able to climb. They weren't willing to try to climb after her. So as much as this was a hard thing to do, it put a lot of space between her and her enemies. And not only that, but Sorrow and Suffering, which comes with trials and hardship, kept her, that she was tied to them, and they kept her from falling off of that climb down to, injury, down to her enemies. So they kept her secured there. We try so hard to avoid trials, but these ones that are a part of the path God is leading us down they are actually helpful in keeping us close and keeping us focused on Christ. The second lesson that I took from chapter 10 is that the Holy Spirit is available to help us during our trials when we turn to Him and ask. Much Afraid had the spirit of grace and comfort, cordial, to apply, to drink when she felt terrified, too terrified to keep climbing, and to put onto her knees, her scraped knees, that helped take away the pain and helped her be able to climb. And this is a metaphor for the Holy Spirit. The great shepherd wasn't physically with her on the climb, but he gave that to her, just as Christ has given all the believers the Holy Spirit to be his presence and to be the words when we don't know what to speak, the strength, the courage when we're afraid. It's providing what she needs. And this is what the Holy Spirit does for us in our trials. But it's not automatic. We have to turn to him, and we have to ask and seek him to receive that, to be able to abide in him while we're in our trials. So these are the lessons that I took from chapter 10. And I look forward to continuing with you. This is halfway through the chapters of the book. And so we'll see in the next few chapters that Much Afraid she's getting closer and closer to the goal of her journey as well.